out there, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I thought I'd share with you all an interesting and bizarre tale. Well, actually, it's based on quote unquote true events of Doris Bither and her family when they lived in the house that's now known as the Entity House in Los Angeles. I'm not sure if you all have heard of this case. I know it was news to me. So let's get into it. The Entity House is located in the suburb of Los Angeles in Culver City. The house was occupied in the 1970s by a woman named Doris Bither and her 4 sons. Bither was a single parent at the time and suffered from possibly several health issues that required her to take medication. So we're already laying the groundwork that, her meds may have played a role in the things that she may have experienced and or saw. Let's get back to it. It was deemed that due to trauma and other mental issues that may have stemmed from a difficult childhood, the medication that was prescribed to Bither was used to treat those ailments. Bither also had a history of physical and substance abuse in her past. It was said that at some point during one of her first nights in the home, Bither was asleep and was awakened to being sexually assaulted by what appeared to be 3 spirits. She would recall later 2 of them holding her down while a third one assaulted her. At some point later on, Bither was visiting a bookstore near the UCLA campus when she overheard Terry Gaynor and Barry Taft, who both are working for a parapsychological lab at the UCLA campus. Bither had heard them discussing at the end of their lecture about a violent encounter with spirits, and that led her to explain to Taft and Gaynor her situation, and they started a preliminary interview with her on August 22nd, 1974. While being interviewed, Bither had recalled hearing the spirits banging on the walls, lights flickering, and all kind of movement around the home. Now, it should be noted that she did have not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 4 boys. Okay. And we all know sometimes, for all you parents out there, 1 child can feel like 2 or 3. So, we're just laying that groundwork here, people. It was also reported that Bither had been suffering from episodes of what could have been known as sleep paralysis, which I actually have had a couple of experiences with. And let me tell you, it's absolutely terrifying. Back to it. Taft and Gaynor may have believed that the sleep paralysis could have been linked to her being savagely attacked by the spirits. They weren't really buying into it at first. However, their tune changed when multiple witnesses came forward to talk about experiences and feelings that had happened to them in the home. These recollections have included members of Bither's own family that had visited that house on several occasions. They would often hear phantom noises like loud voices and, again, banging on the walls. One such witness claimed to see Bither being thrown around like a rag doll. Another witness account reported one of Bither's sons attempting to intervene with one of the spirits and was attacked to the point where his arm was broken. Taft and Gaynor proceeded to investigate the home and had noticed that the lights were flickering on and off constantly. The pair then reported that they had no idea of what may have caused these issues. As Taft and Gaynor began to interview the teens living in the home, they noticed that the relationship between the teens and their mothers did not appear to be the best. However, as one of the teenagers was being interviewed, the cabinet doors were reportedly being flung open and pots and pans were violently hitting the floor without any reason. And to make matters a lot more hair-raising, there were no reports of like earthquakes or tremors or anything, because Los Angeles is known for that. And some people may have thought that that's what it was that triggered it, but there's no reports of that on those days and times when they were being interviewed. Taft and Gaynor wasted little to no time taking pictures of every room of the house. When the photos were quickly developed, they noticed that in some of the photos there were sheets of white fuzz and white orbs. After the investigation wrapped, Taft and Gaynor believed that the best course of action would be to remove Bither and her children from the home. Soon after their removal, Taft and Gaynor again took photos of each room and noticed the major difference right away. There were no white sheets or orbs in any of the rooms. It appeared that the paranormal presence had left when Bither and her children left. The investigation of the home and Bither's apparent attack had taken about 10 weeks before a conclusion had been revealed. Doris had described many presences that she had encountered, including one in particular that she described as a humanoid that was later known as, you guessed it, the Entity, which is where it gets its name from, the Entity House. During the investigation, nearly 30 researchers had been at the home where Bither had attempted to summon the spirits. Bither would summon them by cursing and yelling and making noises, while some researchers had recording materials to document what was taking place. The summoning had appeared to work as lights and noises began happening. And in one instance, during a summoning, a large green fog had begun to appear. The fog later formed into a figure of what appeared to be the torso of a man. Some researchers were able to see more of the man's appearance as someone who appeared to be very large and muscular in size. The figure that appeared apparently had no face either. During this event, one of the cameras managed to capture the image of a bright white orb before it failed and never took any more images. Bither and her family ended up leaving California altogether and relocating to Texas while managing to stay in touch with the paranormal investigators for a little while. However, as Bither left Texas, they've lost touch and they disappeared to an undisclosed location. She never came forward after the release of the book and or film, and it is rumored, now bear with me, that she may have went into hiding because she became pregnant by the entity that sexually assaulted her. She passed away in 1995 from a apparent pulmonary arrest. So can't talk to her anymore about what occurred. So my take on it, my feelings, I guess, is when I first heard and read about it, her case, I couldn't help but think about, I don't know if you guys remember I think it's a Scary Movie 2 or 3, and it's the blonde lady from, I can't never remember her name, but she's from like Melrose Place or 90210, and she like has sex with like the ghost, and it's just so stupid and ridiculous, but that's what popped up in my head when I originally heard of the case. Like, but obviously in the Scary Movie, they're just like goofy movies and it's funny and whatever, but this was serious. I feel like maybe, and I'm not gonna say I don't believe in the paranormal, it's just I find it very questionable, especially like I said right at the beginning, that she had like substance abuse problems and she was on like prescribed medication that we don't really know. It could have been like antipsychotics, and it could have been for hallucinations. We don't really know what kind of prescriptions she was on, and it was the 70s, and a lot of people did self-medicate too, like taking shrooms and whatnot. So and also like the Taft and Gaynor, they believe that what she saw or felt could have just been an association with sleep paralysis, which is where, because from my personal experience, I've actually had sleep paralysis a few times in my life. It makes you see things and it's very terrifying, and you're kind of, it's like for me at least, I'm sure it might be different for everyone. It's like a cross between being like awake and asleep, and you can't move, you can't talk, you're just like trapped in your own body. It's hard to explain. If you've had it, like for all of you out there, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I would not wish that on my worst enemy. It's a horrible feeling. So we don't really know, and I'm sure her kids, wherever they are, I'm sure they don't want to discuss it. It's like almost 50 years ago. They want to keep what's buried. So that's probably why no one ever came forward either. That's something that's very traumatic, especially if like the hauntings and the happenings were real, and even if it wasn't, like, their mother might have had like mental problems. So that's not something that you just want to be out there sharing with the world and admitting to people, So I don't know, I just found it fascinating and interesting, and it's so many like cases that are kind of relevant to it, and I'll probably dive into those down the line. I hope you liked today's video, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.